Hello, my friends. Welcome to our signature speaker series. This is how we roll at PLI. Everyone speaks about something. Today, we're talking about the silent team member. Now, the silent team member is someone who chooses to be silent, someone who chooses to be quiet. But let's ask the question in the spirit of diversity and inclusion. Let's think about people who cannot even speak. There are some teams that have people who are not able to verbalize. It's important to remember people have different communication styles. People have different preferences. And it's not necessarily a bad thing for a team member to be quiet. However, if you as a Scrum Master or as a project manager feels that their lack of communication is hindering the team's progress, this is not about them being a good worker. Yeah, they're a good worker, but if their lack of communication is hindering the team progress, then you got to find a way as a Scrum Master of encouraging. Note, I didn't say forcing them or kicking them or screaming at them, but you got to find a way to encourage them to share the richness of their opinion, because every artery and cell in the body is there for a purpose. So if they're not realizing their full potential in the team and it is hindering the team, well, there are ways that you can use your smart and your agile ways of engaging people, okay? Not in a forceful way, but I'm going to give you some 5 strategies. Number 1, create a safe space. What is a safe space? Phil, it's okay if this is how you feel at the time, but whenever you have anything to say, Phil, please feel free to let your opinions be heard. So we want to make it safe and non-judgmental. Everyone should feel comfortable expressing their opinions and ideas. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, I don't agree. What my buddy Roy and I talk about when we mentor and coach people is to have divergence. First of all, we actually seek divergence in the team. People say devil's advocate. No, it's healthy, constructive disagreement. And from the healthy, constructive disagreement is going to come an even richer perspective. But if everyone's trying to be cute, then we have a problem. And when I say everyone's trying to be cute, you know what we call it? We call it hyper-norming. There are a lot of teams that everyone's on their best behavior. No one wants to rock the boat. Oh, I don't want schisms with Ed. I don't want schisms with Lara. I don't want schism with Daryl. I'm just going to act like I'm in 100% agreement. Well, that's hyper-norming. And hyper-norming leads nowhere, right? So we got to ensure that team members respect each other's opinions. It's okay it's actually great to disagree and then to come to a convergence, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, encourage participation. So as part of your ground rules in your team contract, social contract, team agreement, this is something that should have been discussed. So in the contract, the social contract, you want to make it clear that it is okay to speak. It is okay to make your voice heard. Encourage it. Encourage the quiet team member to participate, to be active. And you can start by asking open-ended questions such as, hey, Phil, what do you think about this? Or, hey, Phil, do you have any suggestions? Number 3, assign tasks. Assigning tasks that require the quiet team member to work with other team members. And when we say assign tasks, I know it sounds a little bit, draconian and traditional, but it's not. We're actually talking about ideas such as remote pairing, where they may be working remote, or if they're in the same place, just get them to pair up. And that helps them to be more comfortable in communicating. So one of the things we started doing at PLI, as opposed to just having our big old huddle, we break into individual pairing rooms. And it's for a reason. It is for us to start getting even more and more comfortable with each other. And it's leading us to learn more about each other and to grow. That is what growth is all about. So it comes with being comfortable. Sometimes as a Scrum Master, you need to bring those techniques and practices of Agile, and even as a project manager. Number 4, one-on-one meetings. Schedule one-on-one meetings with a quiet team member to discuss their concerns and ideas. This approach can help them feel more comfortable in expressing themselves without the pressure of speaking in front of the entire team. I had a team member on the Praizion team who always liked one-on-ones with people. But the moment you brought that individual in front of everyone else, not working that well. And it's okay. It's okay. I'm saying that there's diversity of ideas, diversity of communication. Lastly, use collaboration tools, a virtual whiteboard, the story that we just heard now of someone whipping out the phone and then everyone communicating, and I think Ed, that was your story. Was that your story, Ed? You want to tell us that story again of the person who was silent and then was told to bring out a phone and communicate?
Yeah, absolutely, Phil. I mean, the gist of the story is kind of really what you were talking about, of the ability to understand who you're communicating with. A professor had two students come down to address this whole communication myth, and the communication myth is that nowadays people, you can't just assume one communication style. So he asked them to talk to each other, said just have a general conversation. Before he did that, he said, do you guys know each other? Said, no, we do not know each other. Said, great, have a conversation, you pick a topic, it doesn't matter, we're going to go on as normal with class. Well, unfortunately, nothing happened. They were unable, it was challenging to have that conversation. So the professor stopped what he was doing, came back over to the two students and said, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to put two chairs back to back, and I would like for you each to sit in there. So they sat down with their backs to each other. And the other classroom was like looking around like, okay, what is he doing here? Is this guy weird? So next thing you know, the teacher says, pull out your phones and start texting each other. And they were able to have a very fluent conversation. Now, one thing about that, though, we all understand context can be pulled out of, it can be put in a way where it doesn't make sense to you. What do I mean by that? Meaning that when you have a text message, you can interpret it one way where the other person is meaning it for a different way. So that's why I love just not being able to look at a communication of just written, as far as emails, text messages. I also want to have that verbal, and if we can really make it work, to have the visual, because when I get all three of those components together, it helps for a better communication model when we are having a conversation with each other. Thanks, Phil.
Brilliant, Ed. Brilliant stuff. I love it. Thank you for sharing that story. And going back to what Ed just mentioned, we have Professor Emeritus Albert Moravian, who gave us what my buddy Rick Brinkman says is the 55-38-7 of communication. We have the words, talk is cheap, right? That's just 7%. But we have the body language, and the body language accounts for 55. So where this is a possibility, do let there be some in-person, face-to-face body language. And then the tone of voice also goes a step further to amplify to 38% more. And if you only have the words, look at how much more you have to compensate. So when you're using just words, it's actually not enough. And if you're forced to use just words, you got to be very careful with them, because every word is amplified and counts so many more times. So the use of collaboration tools, as Ed's story accentuates, is important. Texting, virtual whiteboards, chat platforms, all of that helps. That is the way forward. And in closing, just bear in mind, it is important to remember that everyone has a different communication style. It's crucial to respect and appreciate each team member's strengths and contributions. And by creating a safe and collaborative environment, encouraging participation, assigning tasks, having those one-on-ones, and using collaboration tools, you can actually help a quiet team member feel a lot more comfortable. And again, it's not about speaking. It's really about the quality of that individual's presence on the team, getting them to add value through their decision-making, through being part of the team. And honestly, use things like dot voting, the Highsmith decision spectrum, fist of five for immediate response. All of those things really help. Thank you very much, my friends. That's the end of our signature speaker series. Thank you, Ed, for the story. Talk to you next week.